I'm at one point that I really like, and I think everybody likes it because on your TikTok profile you have a video about this with 1.2 million views. Salary negotiation is a nuanced dance. It's about striking the right balance between value and demand. When it comes to discussing salaries, how can candidates approach this often sensitive topic with confidence and tact at the same time?
Well, this goes right back to where we started from with speaking confidence, right? If you are not able to speak with confidence, you will not be able to negotiate your salary unless you're negotiating by email, which does happen. It's a common happenstance where you can review the contract and then negotiate by email.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Today we have with us Raymond, a former marketing and graphic designer professional from the US who shifted into the world of teaching English abroad in 2016. Raymond found his true calling in helping people with exam and interview preparations, and since 2019, he's carved a niche for himself in recruitment with a special focus on cybersecurity roles. And for those on TikTok, you might recognize him from his insightful content helping job seekers navigate the hiring landscape. From fresh grads to those looking to pivot their careers, Raymond is the man with the tips and tricks to ace those interviews. Raymond, welcome to the podcast. It's truly a pleasure to have someone with such a diverse and enriching background with us.
Well, thank you, Felicia, for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So let's dive in. Talking about CVs. First, why CVs, not resumes? That's what was one of my entry questions.
Well, resume, I believe, is more popular in the United States, where CV is more used internationally. It's really used interchangeably right now.
Yeah, because I'm from East Europe. So when we created our CV, we put everything. I mean, how many kids we have, our marital status, a picture, like everything on the CV. So when I moved to Canada, I learned no. You only highlight your skills and whatever is related to your future job or future career. So it's
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually just saw a resume with height and weight on it.
that's a little bit too far, I would say.
A little too much.
Yeah, a little bit too much. Okay, crafting a CV is often the first step in our job search, and it's our chance to make a strong first impression. What innovative techniques do you recommend for individuals looking to optimize their CVs to stand out in the competitive job market?
That's a great question. And there are many different ways that it can be done. And there's many different steps to this process as well. However, you can use all of the AI tools that you want, but you need to have a good foundation of what you do.
Yeah.
So you need to understand your value and what metrics, what numbers you have done in your previous roles. For example, instead of listing just things that you've done, like led a team, you should always try to include metrics or numbers. So I led a team of 10 marketers and we reached our goals or even exceeded our goals 120% in the first quarter, right? So that really takes it to the next level. And then you can use AI to sort of make it a little bit smoother and a little bit easier.
But also, if we only use AI, when we are in an interview, we don't talk about our resume in the same way if we were to create it ourselves. So we'll be more like detached in a way and more robotic instead of being more natural.
Well, that's a fantastic point. And you have a CV, right? And we were talking about building the CV, and then you have your interview, right? So you create the metrics for your CV, and then you need to have a story ready for every single bullet point, because who knows what the interviewer will ask you.
Exactly. I always said, looking for a job, it's a full-time job. You you have to take it very seriously. You have to do the work if you want to get the job you want, the career you want.
Absolutely. And it could take months or years to find a
Yeah.
job or a job that you really want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned it's a full-time job, and there are plenty of time management or
Mm-hmm.
application management tools that can be used to remember what jobs you applied to,
Yeah.
when to follow up with people. Now, this helps you get a better advantage to when you know what you have organized, you know what to do next.
And also, you don't want to think you talk to an employer, but you are talking with somebody else. That's another, danger.
That would be a problem.
You know what I mean? You have to, because if you're not applying for one job at a time, probably you're applying for multiple jobs, different companies. So you have to be very organized. I work in employment services and as a job developer, and I always advise my clients, do not take the call. Take the message, see who called, and then go back to your application, because it's a pre-screening pretty much interview. So the interviewer will have like specific questions from your cover letter or your resume or CV. So that was one of my
Exactly.
tactics. Be prepared, because it's not a courtesy phone call. It's a pre-screening.
Right, and you can get caught off guard, and
Yes.
maybe you're in a cafe or something, and it's not the
That's
best time. You
no.
have to think quickly to say, wow,
Yeah.
thank you for the opportunity. I would love to call you back. And how is tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Are you free then?
Yes.
Just as a
Absolutely.
backup.
In today's digital age, the way we apply for jobs has shifted. Can you share some insights into how job seekers can refine their application strategy to align closely to what employers are looking for?
Well, that is again a multi-step process.
Okay.
And you're almost sort of engineering your job off. Let's start with step one. We mentioned earlier is getting the content. And step two will be finding multiple job descriptions, maybe up to 20 job descriptions of the position that you want.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to comb these job descriptions looking for keywords that come up the most often. Now you're going to go back to your resume
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to add these keywords naturally into the text, not listing as skills, not just, putting communication, but using it naturally in there. Now this helps when most recruiters are using applicant tracking systems that are scanning for these keywords, and if you're not a match or you don't have enough quality match, then there's a 250 to 500 people applying to one single job.
Absolutely, yeah.
You have to have this at the top of your list to do.
Yeah, I also want to ask you, because people want a specific job, but they're not quite qualified, and they maybe have the transferable skills, but they don't have the maybe 5 years experience in the field, and the employer are specifically mentioning in their job posting that they're looking for somebody with 5 or 3+ years experience in the specific field. How we can massage that? Yeah, I know it's a little like a bit, but I have situation. This is why I'm asking those questions, is because I was dealing actually with those situations.
It's a fair point, and most of the job descriptions, let's look at it as an employer wish list, right? They want everybody, or they want the perfect person that can do every single thing, which is usually not possible, right? So if you have, at least 70%, if you meet 70% of the requirements, you should apply. Because if you don't, you need to go back and reevaluate what skills you need for this job. Now, part two of this question was, what can people do if they don't have enough experience? Okay, let's say the position says 5 years and I have 3 years, but I have shown through blogging, through videos, through projects
Oh,
on
that's a good point.
GitHub or podcasting or anything, something that you can show value, because there's a lot of people who just have years of experience, but people with less experience may be more skilled, but the recruiter will not know, the hiring manager will not know unless you can show them your skills. So I always advise all of my clients, build a portfolio. It's
Mhm.
everything you can do is free. YouTube is free.
Oh, yeah,
Blogging is free. Get out
absolutely.
there.
Yeah,
And, it's not comfortable sometimes for people,
yeah,
but it's an absolute must to set yourself apart from other candidates.
yeah. I mean, if you want that job that bad, yeah, you'll go a little bit more
Yeah, and I always advise
yeah.
quality
Mm,
applications over
mm,
quantity.
yeah,
People get stuck,
yeah,
maybe going on LinkedIn and just hitting easy apply to,
yeah.
20 jobs and they hear nothing.
I always advise my clients see the must have qualities or skills and nice to have, because if it's a must, then you have to have those skills. But if it's nice to have, then it's a little bit. This is why a cover letter is helping, because you can tell the story. Say, hey, I didn't work per se in this position or officially, but this is what I did, and you can list all the skills, all the interaction, all the results.
Anything like that.
Yeah.
And let's say, for example, your manager emailed you
Mhm.
and congratulated you on the great job you did on the project.
Yes. Yes, I
That
like
is
that.
something you save.
The first interview is a pivotal moment. It's not just about showcasing skills, but also connecting with the interviewer. How can candidates effectively prepare for their first interview to not only present their skills, but also build a genuine connection with the interviewer? Because we are dealing with human beings. We are human beings. They are human beings. So I think it's more than questions, right? And responses and answers.
It's absolutely first impressions matter. And
Mm,
that is how you walk into the room
yes.
or how you appear on camera. Do you have a microphone? I mean, if you're doing an online interview these days,
Mm,
you have to have a microphone. You can't use the laptop speaker. So even that small thing can make a
mhm.
difference between you and another candidate, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but building a personal connection with someone,
Mm,
smiling,
yeah.
and even a little small talk here and there, a simple greeting and beginning before the interview actually gets started. Maybe sometimes they're waiting for another interviewer to
Yeah.
enter the chat. You can
Mm,
absolutely have a small conversation to, maybe it's someone that you won't be working with,
mm.
but they can mention to the hiring manager, I sort of had a good feeling about this person.
And also, if it's a panel interview, eye contact is very important. And when you talk, you have to make eye contact with everybody, because you don't know who is going to decide if you're going to be hired or not. And
Hmm.
it's a way of be respectful as well. You are not just connected with just one person if there are like five people in a panel interview, right? So I would definitely suggest eye contact. It's mandatory.
Right. And there are techniques you can do. You shouldn't go down the line like hi, 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 hi,
Yes.
but just
Yeah.
back and forth between everybody.
Yeah. But not just stuck with one person and just talk. And
Rude.
yeah, one of my clients had this experience. Um, he didn't ask where to sit. So he grabbed a chair and sat. That was wrong, because was the interviewer actually chair. And this is why I always advise ask, especially if it's confused. Is everybody like stands and nobody sits? You have to wait to be invited or take a seat, or just making sure you're not. Or oh, okay, I have another. Sorry, I don't want to take over of. But another
That's fine. I
example
like the
was
story.
in the parking lot. My client met the interviewer in the parking lot, but my client wanted to take a spot the interviewer took, and then they exchanged a little bit of not so good conversation. And guess who is in the room for interview? Yeah,
That is almost a nightmare scenario.
I know. So the interview starts effectively when you actually park your car. Even before, when you actually,
Right.
drive, or yeah, you can't just and can you imagine, even if you're like a candidate, like a star candidate, that would probably will hurt your chances to, you know.
It's just like the car thing. It is small things
Yes,
that can lead to getting the job or not.
I
For
know.
example, I heard recently that one interviewer, they offer the person water, And if the person returns the cup, or if the person leaves the cup, or maybe you make them
Yes,
mess or something, that
exactly.
gives you an insight into the person's character.
Exactly. Because you can project the future. Also mirroring. Because sometimes we have the conversation, the interview with maybe a young person. Other times we are with like more senior. So we have to pay attention and sometimes mirror, be like that person and maybe use same language just to connect. It's a connection, right?
Yeah, and there's some great books or some
Oh
master
yeah.
classes that you can
Yeah.
watch about that. I mean,
Yeah.
the Never Split the Difference with Chris
Mhm.
Voss is a
Yes.
fantastic
Oh,
read
I love it.
about
I love it.
mirroring.
Yeah.
And even just listening to him talk is great because he has a great
Mhm.
voice.
Or they can
Uh,
reach out to you and you're a coach and you can actually,
or that, yes.
yes, probably it's probably, but I mean, both. I always encourage both. Why? Because if you read a book, then you have more thoughtful questions, more specific questions, versus when you approach a coach, you are starting from zero. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's not bad, it's still good, but I'm just saying that you start a conversation from a different level when you study a little bit, you do your research, your homework, and then you have more specific questions regarding to how I should, you know, be in an interview.
I've actually recently seen some all over the place yet, but some trends of people putting a book section on their resume, depending upon what sort of position they're applying for
Yeah.
and the industry.
Yes.
But what you've recently read, what you're learning now,
Mm.
even these little tiny details can set you apart from another candidate.
Yes. Even when they ask about your hobby, oh, I like this question. I can't wait. If I'm in an interview, I can't wait this question because I then I can tell what I really, really like and I really, really, love. And uh, to me is I have a goal of 2 books per month to read. I don't know, to keep track of my progress, or I want to learn something new every week. So I really like this question. Actually, this question is helping a lot in the interview. This is my opinion. It's a good question to have.
And this is where approaching job interviews and applications like a detective is
Mm,
a good strategy.
mhm,
For example, everyone has LinkedIn.
mhm.
If you know, I mean, you will know who the hiring or the interviewer will be by their email,
Yeah.
right? Before you have it, you can go on LinkedIn, type in the email, and find that person's profile,
Yes.
right? And you can connect with them
Mhm.
before the interview, and you can see what are they blogging about, what are they posting about, where did they go to
Mm.
school, maybe what kind of interests they have. So when you're on the interview and you're taking this hobby question, and you
Mhm.
said, right now I'm reading Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I actually saw that you had a post about that the
Mhm.
other day. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, this is gold.
all of
This
this
is
stuff,
gold. I'm telling you, this is 30% of the chances to get that job. Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah.
because people are so focused on, I need a question, I need an answer. And most interviews come with a set of common questions. Preparation can set us apart from the competition, of course. What methods do you advise for preparing robust answers, especially for the unpredictable behavioral questions? Everybody's afraid about behavioral questions because they know they're stopped and they have their skills, they're comfortable talking about their skills, but behavioral questions always is I don't know, they're afraid
They're
about it.
tricky.
They can be tricky though. Yeah.
Well, I always say you need to know the top 10 regular questions, right?
Mm.
Tell me about yourself, all of these things. You need to know these
No,
and
yeah.
have these answers written down, and you know them in your sleep. Now, for behavioral interview questions, you have many different methods. You have the STAR method, you have the CAR method, and they're all very similar.
Mhm. If you can
But
explain to the audience, I know what the star and car means, but can you explain the star stands for?
right, so STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So what you're doing is with the situation, you are setting the scene. You know, who was involved, what was going on,
Yeah.
where were you? Give a little backstory. That's how you start a
Mm.
vivid story, right? And then you go on to the action, say what maybe the problem was in a behavioral interview. It's mostly issues. Situation is what's going on. The task is what you were assigned to do.
Yeah.
The action is what happened after you were assigned. And the
Yeah.
result is the great things you did.
You did.
Hopefully. Yeah, so they're very similar, right? I did STAR and just STAR, right? It's just acronyms, right? There's no real difference. But just the way it's personal preference, how you like to organize your stories. But what's really good for this is being able to think on the top of your head, right? And what I like to do is ask my clients all these questions like this.
Yeah.
So you're on Mars and you ran out of oxygen. What do you do? Tell me about a time you were in the ocean and you had right? So if you can make up answers to and practice this, you can easily do, what would you do if a coworker was angry at you, right? So it's just practice, but imaginative practice.
Practice is key. You need practice. I had a situation when my client would say, with you, I'm okay, but yeah, when I'll be in an interview, I will be different. Well, I say, well, I don't know about that. Yeah. Why? Because they feel comfortable with their coach working, and they're like, but I say, let's treat the situation like you are in an interview right now, and then you'll feel comfortable. You're not getting nervous. You'll be like in your environment if we're doing the same. And I actually ask my clients to dress like for interview when we did the preparation. And that's a North America thing. Always they're coming with a coffee in their hand and put it on, like in front of me. It was like, and I was like, I hope you're not doing the same in the interview, really. Can you imagine coming like you have no enough hands to do your stuff so you can be like professional in the interview because you have one coffee and then I don't know something else in the other hand, maybe the phone, or it's a
Now, if you bring two
distraction.
coffees, it might be a different story. One for the interviewer, one for you.
Yes, I like that. I really like that. Yeah, I
It's
like.
sort of a bold move. It
Yeah.
also depends. Like a lot of these tips I tell people, it all depends upon the industry, the company culture, and who you're interviewing with. If it's
Absolutely.
with the CEO,
Yeah.
you're not going to do that, right?
No.
If it's with the, the first round interview, you're in a market, you're going into a marketing agency, you
Yeah.
want to be personable.
Yes.
That seems like the appropriate situation.
Yeah. And also depends on the jobs because I work with corporate and then I work with small businesses. And one of the employer I was dealing with was like, when I interview candidates, I walk behind them because I want to see how fast they are walking. But that was an assembly line or something production anyway. And he said, I would judge that person how fast he's going to be in the future. I was like, okay, but you can train that person. Yeah. But if he or she is not quite fast, I don't know, even if they learn the skills, they still I need speed, he said. I need speed. So
That goes into body language.
I
If you're
know.
in the interview and
Yeah.
you're sitting back like
Yes.
this, it's not
Oh,
very professional.
when I see, and also in the podcast, people talking like this, I'm like, okay, this is a communication skill, when you're like standing like this, you're like, I don't even care what you're talking about. I'm not even here. I'm somewhere else. But when you are like this, you're assertive, you're there, you want to be engaged, you show respect. Body language, it's huge. Actually, communication is key. As I said, it's not just about what we say, but how we say it. So, my question is, how do you feel about the importance of practicing speaking and body language before an interview? Do you have any methods, unique methods maybe, or any secret weapons? Something secret, something we can use in the
Well,
communication.
I've been in different countries working with different people
Mm,
and non-native speakers, and they always ask, what's the best way to improve my speaking skills?
yeah.
And as you mentioned before, your client was comfortable with you, but
Mhm.
wouldn't speak to anybody else. Now, there's this barrier that people need to get over and to be comfortable speaking in front of anybody. For example, I started a free speaking community. There are 22 people, 27 people. One person has responded.
Oh,
Now, I have 5 questions based on interview questions that people can record their videos, send them, and I will give them free feedback.
yeah.
Nobody has responded. Now, this goes, I mean, it's actually a great science experiment.
Yeah.
This goes to show that people are just afraid to speak. Now, once you get past that, whether you are talking to AI, there's a lot of these popping up now, whether you're talking into the mirror, talking with a coach, you really need to get over this, because that is just the first hurdle. Because before you brought up the great point, it's about how you say it, right? Now, if you're just speaking monotone like this and you're just, I'm not going to hire you. You need to have the confidence to be able to tell behavioral interview stories and to have your voice rise up and down to accentuate the moment, the emphasis on the importance of things.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry for rambling, but because when you're in a business meeting and you are communicating with clients or you're communicating with coworkers, these are important skills that you need to have.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you cannot be shy if you are playing for a sales position. Let's be honest.
Right.
I mean, even with the podcast, I was talking with like brilliant people, and they're afraid. They are afraid to be in front of the camera for some reason. I told them, we record. I will cut the part you don't want to be there, like, but still they don't feel comfortable. But it's a matter of practicing, to be honest. To me, it's important, and it should be for the job seekers as well. Like, and always that was my philosophy. Even if I'm not getting the job, I want to leave a good impression. That's actually always my target. I have no control to be hired. I mean, I have a certain amount of control, but I don't have the full control. But I have control on how can I present myself. And that was my target, always my target. I want to leave a good impression.
Exactly. That's a great practice.
Yeah, it's actually important. And I've got a phone call actually. I didn't get the position at that point, but I got a phone call after a while because they liked me in the interview. They say, you know what, we want to hire you because we really like you in the interview. They had to hire somebody internally. So that's the other thing, because sometimes you don't even know who is your competition. It's not even a competition because it's often employers prefer people from inside. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's that helped me at one point because I made a good impression. They liked me. They called me back. I got a position.
You never know as a candidate what is going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
There are many unlisted positions. A quick someone retires quickly or someone leaves quickly. If you made a good impression, you're more than likely going to get the first call back instead of a new position opening.
Absolutely.
Right? A new job description, a new post out there.
Yeah.
So it's very important. And another thing, when you're just starting out, or even me, I'll apply to jobs because I want to get on interviews, because I want to experience the new trends that are happening right now. And every interview is a learning experience.
Yeah.
I say to all my clients, take every interview you can get, even if you don't want the job.
I know. Now, when I moved to Canada, because I was in ESL class, and our teacher was like, just go out there, talk to the cashier at the, the store, just have conversation. Don't be afraid, because nothing happens. If you go to the store, just have a conversation, practice every time you have, the chance. It's the same with the interviews. Even if, especially I would go to those jobs, I don't want to actually take that job only to have that experience and be more prepared for the next one, the dream job. I don't want to test on the dream job. I want to test on the job. I don't care that much about that job, or it's a contract position. And actually, that was a thing when I came to Canada. I worked with a temp agency, and that was good because I worked for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in different companies, different position, and I learned what I really like and what I dislike, what type of company I'm looking for, what type of employer I'm like, the culture, but the everything. So I always encourage, don't test on the dream job, test on the jobs you don't, I don't know, you maybe want to be temporary there, or be prepared.
And at the same time, by doing what you're doing at the temp agency, you're building your network, right? You're
Yes,
meeting a lot of different people.
Mhm.
And, you know, the cheesy saying is your network is your net worth, but it really is true. I mean, with all these layoffs that you've seen across the news, you know,
Oh,
who
yeah.
knows how long, you know, this downturn will continue for.
Yeah.
But if you know somebody,
Mm.
if you are working on LinkedIn, and that's a whole other discussion.
Yes, I know. It's,
But
yeah,
if
I
you're
agree.
doing your work there,
Yeah,
you're going to be at the top of the list when
yes,
positions open.
absolutely. An interview is a two-way street. It's not just about answering the questions, but asking the right questions as well. What strategies do you suggest for candidates to ensure they're actively participating and showcasing their curiosity during the interview? I believe curiosity, it's a must-have skill right now. You cannot not be curious, honestly, because you don't know if
Well,
you're not curious.
right. So a lot of these interview strategies, right? They always depend upon the industry and the role. I say that all the time. There's no one size fits all. However, in most positions, I do advise trying to create a conversation right away. Now, that is what I mean by that is you get asked an interview question,
Yeah.
you give your great answer that you
Mhm.
practice for, and then right away you give a follow-up question to them. All right. Now, you just turned it into a conversation. It's not now a speaking exam, right?
Mhm.
One question, one question, one question. Now there's an open conversation. And now you're starting to get into the employer's head of, oh, this could work with this person maybe because they're asking good questions.
Yeah.
So that's one, you know, start a conversation right away. But before that, you need to do a lot of research. And, you know, I usually have at least 15 questions through, you know, the company socials, the about pages, the job descriptions, and try to come up with unique questions that they're not going to get all the time.
I know.
You know, how many days off do I get? Or,
Oh
you know,
no,
things like that. Like you
that's
can't
not a
be
good.
asking that stuff.
No, not in the interview. I agree. And also, what's important, you don't need an invitation from the employer to ask a question. It's going to be probably in the end. You don't have to wait, like you said. Building conversation, like at the right moment when you provide the answer, but then, yeah, you can ask more in detail.
Right. Now, traditionally, the questions have waited till the end of the interview, right?
Yes, I know.
And you have, you know, maybe three golden questions, the greatest questions ever. But you get towards end of the end of the interview, the interviewer has a meeting. He has a hard stop. She has a hard stop. Okay,
Mhm.
the interview's over, but you know, I had questions I still have to ask.
Yeah.
You don't get your opportunity to do this.
Mhm.
That's why you need to ask questions
Yeah.
throughout the interview, but also save some for the end of the interview
Mhm.
when they say, "Is there anything else you'd like to ask?"
Mhm.
Yes, I actually have, you know, one or two more questions if you
Yeah.
have the time.
Yeah. Now I will play the devil advocate and I say, how about the employer says, no, 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 we are asking question, not you. Then I would suggest you don't want to work for that employer because in the future it's going to be the same scenario. I know we need jobs. This is why we're applying for jobs. This is where, but it's not, it's still a two-way street. We need a job, but also the employer needs good employees. And it always comes to what type of position you're applying for, right?
Mhm.
It's always we have to keep in mind If it's like an entry level position, maybe a labor position, it's a little bit different. But still, you have to have, those soft skills, show on time, be at work, not on the phone all the time. Learn what you have to do, ask for questions, not the same questions, but ask for
Hmm.
questions. So it's different. But when you apply for more like high level position, it's more preparation. It's
Right. And it's not only industries, but also countries, right? For
yes,
example,
yes,
I'm in
yes, yes.
Vietnam, right? And uh, there's no conversations for the
Mm,
most part that are happening in interviews. It is a
mm,
very traditional standard interview
yes, yes, yes.
where
I
questions are
agree.
asked and you answer.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so in that scenario,
Mm,
there's other strategies that you need to consider.
I know.
But let's say you are on an interview, and you say, I have a question, and they say, no, I'm asking the questions.
Mm,
Say, oh, okay. I apologize. I have a few questions. I'll just wait until we have a free moment for me to ask them.
yeah, it's great. It's great, actually. I'm at one point that I really like, and I think everybody likes it because on your TikTok profile you have a video about this with 1.2 million views. Salary negotiation is a nuanced dance. It's about striking the right balance between value and demand. When it comes to discussing salaries, how can candidates approach this often sensitive topic with confidence and tact at the same time?
Well, this goes right back to where we started from with speaking confidence, right?
Mm,
If you are not able to speak with confidence, you will
mm,
not be able to negotiate your salary unless you're negotiating by email, which does happen. It's a common happenstance where you can review the contract and then
mm,
negotiate by email. So that's fine.
mhm,
However, yes, salary is a very controversial topic. Again, changes by industry, role, location.
mhm,
Um, but really, you need to put yourself in the driver's seat,
mhm.
and this is where you have your ultimate sales pitch of why you deserve the most money.
Yeah.
So you are combining your experience, your hard work, your future ambition, the value you will add to this company, and why you are so irreplaceable
Mm,
that there is no way they cannot offer you this money.
yeah. I like the word irreplaceable because yes, employer think everybody's replaceable. So you want to
Mhm.
show them you're a great candidate. They need you. Now,
Right.
how
And
much? Yeah, sorry.
no, so it's usually at first in this dance, you don't want to mention a number, but you can say, what is your approved salary for this position? Sometimes they will dance back and say,
Mm,
I'm not sure, even though they know.
yeah,
And what can you just give me a range? All right. So
yeah,
there's a little give and take here. So this is where your homework comes into play of checking websites of the standard
Mhm.
salary, and
Even
then you
there, range salary at the company and Glassdoor, it's a good resource because for the
Glassdoor
same
is okay
position, yes.
for maybe like a tertiary resource, a third
Mm-hmm.
resource, but you know, people say what's the best salary website?
Mm,
I usually check like 5 or 6 because
mhm.
they're all going to have different numbers for the most part, different
Yeah,
inputs.
yeah,
So there's no one website. You have to check at least 5 of them.
yeah.
So then you sort of get an average from there of what,
Mhm.
this is my experience, 5 years.
Yeah.
And, the salary here is, let's just say $50,000 is the average across all of these websites. I'm going to say, maybe 10, 15% higher,
Mhm.
and start there. So,
Yeah.
okay, then you will be able to negotiate down, right? So the number you say will be lowered, right? So you want to choose something that you're comfortable with negotiating below. So let's say you say, okay, that it's $50,000. You want to say 70, right? And in your mind, you're like, oh my God, that's $20,000 more. But that's dropping down, maybe 65, maybe 62.5.
Yeah.
But you can say that if you have the story behind
Yes.
it
I know.
to prove that you're worth negotiating this salary.
You have to know your worth. And also what I found is hard if you are like, you have no job and you need a job ASAP. It's hard to negotiate versus you are actually working, just you want to switch jobs for maybe salary. They have families, they have bills, they have kids, they have responsibilities, so they need a job. It's still okay, especially if they want to work in the specific company. They love the company and they want to work there. So if they're not getting what they're expecting, it's still okay, because what I advise them, make sure you have after 3 months or a negotiation of salary, and then you can come up with your results, your progress, what you did. It's a bit more, it's a different conversation.
Right. I actually just did a video about how to ask for a promotion.
Oh, okay.
And it's similar to asking for the salary at the end, right? You're coming with all your figures, all of your achievements, and saying why I absolutely deserve this. And a lot of times, a boss is going to say, "No, I don't have the budget for that. Sorry, we'll talk again in 6 months." Now there's a nuanced situation that
Yeah.
depends upon the boss and
Yeah.
the situation. But in that case, if your boss isn't listening to you while you still have a job, start applying, because you are now in the position of power of having a job, and you can start applying to other jobs and start asking for more money, right? Because now you're comfortable. You have a position. I had a comment on TikTok the other day.
Yes.
The person said, I was working for 7 years. They refused to give me a promotion. I told them I quit, and then they gave me a promotion.
Yeah, but it's a gamble though.
It's a very big gamble.
It is a big gamble. So what I'm saying is you have to be prepared for the outcome, because sometimes the outcome is not what you are hoping, can be
Right.
the opposite. So you have to be prepared, because in the case it's happening, what's next? If I'm going to lose my job, well, I have to be prepared for that. So
Yeah, plan B and C.
yeah.
Maybe D.
The full alphabet,
Maybe E.
really. Leaving a lasting impression requires strong finish. As the interview wraps up, what steps can a candidate take to effectively summarize their fit and interest in the role? We talked about the final question, like when an interviewer asks you, "Do you have any question?" It's the right moment.
Now, I actually made a few videos about this that I heard this tactic from, and then I saw it somewhere else too, and it seems to be popping up. These were, I believe, sales and marketing roles. So, of course, depends. But they were saying, do you have any questions? And now, before we finish, I just want to ask you if there's anything that I didn't make clear about my background, my experience, that you wish that you knew more about. Now, a lot of comments were saying this is an outrageous question to ask. People are just uncomfortable with this sort of confidence.
Yeah.
And that's what it will take to have a question or have a response like this. But what it really is doing, it's asking maybe a concept checking question. Do you understand exactly what I can bring you? That's really all it is. And it's important to know, like, what if they said,
Yeah.
do you have graphic design experience? I don't see it on your resume. And like, oh, I actually have this website I built for my mom. And then be like, oh, okay, that's great. I didn't see that, but now you told me.
Yeah. Again, you don't have to work in the specific position to show you have the skills. Like you said, you design something for your friend or parent, even though if you're not paid, it's a matter of your set of skills. So I agree. And I also recommend, instead of question, I would make a statement. Question is good.
That was the clarifying question, right?
Yeah.
And then you go into your final statement.
And then, because you can shine there, because you don't have any question. You're not even an answer based on the question. You say whatever you wanted to say and sell yourself. It's the right moment to sell yourself, actually.
Now, how many times have we talked about interview questions, selling yourself from the first question?
Yes.
Right? Being able to tell an effective story.
Yeah.
is
Yes.
very important.
So it's easy to find excuses. Oh, I'm not comfortable. Oh, I get them. Yes, but this is why you can prepare yourself. The more you prepare yourself, the more comfortable you'll be. And like a second nature, really. It's going to be the second nature. You want
Mhm.
the second nature.
Now, earlier you were talking about, maybe at first you weren't, super comfortable on camera, but, you started practicing and practicing, and now you feel confident
Mm,
and you have a nice setup and everything. But
mm,
when you first started, it was rough. And look at the example of the most famous YouTuber of all time, Mr. Beast. If you look at his first videos, right,
mm.
he talks about how terrible they were, right? And now he's a gazillionaire.
And it's
Uh,
okay. Get
that's even
comfortable
something
with
that you can
uncomfortable,
do.
really.
I have some of my clients that are camera shy, record and post unlisted YouTube videos
Mm,
of talking into the camera. And so you're making a video, but you're not putting it out there, right?
yeah,
So it's still stepping up to, you know,
absolutely.
being
Yeah.
really comfortable.
Until you're comfortable, because
Hmm.
you'll be comfortable at one point. The more you're doing it, it's natural. And also we are afraid about unknown.
Hmm.
This is why we are actually afraid, the unknown.
Exactly. What's the
So
interviewer going to say if I say
mm,
this? Are they
yeah.
going to be upset? Are they going to
Mm.
be think I'm, bad? I mean, there's a huge imposter syndrome.
Oh,
You don't think that you're good enough.
oh, you deserve
It's
the position. It's, oh, there are more candidates, good, better than me. They're like, this is in our mind, the little devil here always. Actually, it's in my book. I have the imposter syndrome. And actually, this is one of the tricky question: why you are the best candidate for our position, for this position. Always, my answer is, well, I don't know the other candidates, but I know very well about myself. So let me talk about myself. I don't want to talk about something I don't know, but I wanted to talk about what I know very well. This is me. So let's talk about me. Yeah, but this is my impression. Maybe it's not. Maybe you don't see what I'm seeing in myself. So you still have to be a little bit humble. You can be like, oh, let me
sure,
talk about myself.
sure.
I'm the hero.
As long as you tie it into
Yeah.
the role, the company. I actually did a video recently about this. Why should we hire you? How to
Mm.
answer this question. And I thought it was interesting that a lot of people's response was because you invited me
Oh.
or because I'm here. Now, at first I thought, maybe, people are having fun, but then there was just way too many of these comments. So I
Mm.
actually think that maybe people aren't fully equipped with the
Mm.
way to answer this question properly
Yeah.
because it's more than just a few jokes. It was pretty common. So
Mm.
my recommendation to people like this who don't have
Mm.
the confidence or don't understand that they need to sell themselves at this exact moment is, you cannot take it for granted that just because you're there,
Yeah.
they're going to hire you. There's 200 other people
Yeah.
waiting to get the job. Um, so it really comes down to, practicing, be more confident. Confident makes you be able to tell better stories.
Mm.
Better stories are able to get you higher salaries and better jobs and promotions and just generally be more likable in the workplace.
Mm. Yeah.
It's all compound together. There's not one answer,
Mm.
but it's really just doing it, I think.
I know. And also you can fail like all the step. I mean, you can have a great resume, but if you don't do well in an interview, then you're not getting the job. So the job interview process doesn't end once you leave the room. A thoughtful follow-up can make all the difference. Can you talk about the importance of post-interview and follow-ups and the elements can make them most impactful?
Right. Well, I'm from the United States. So the way I grew up is that your thank you email is going out maybe hours after your interview ends. Now, in the other side of the world, people don't send them,
Mm.
or it's not very common. But generally, I think a comfortable 30 maximum of 36 hours,
Mhm.
3 days is a fair time to send an email.
Mm.
Um, Now, what you want to do on this email, of course, be polite. thank them, but also bring up something that that interviewer discussed. Now, if it's multiple interviewers, you're going to send multiple thank you emails individually, not as a group.
Yes. And not with
That is
CC.
not with that is the attention to detail that they're
Yeah.
probably looking for as well.
Yeah.
But this is another chance to make a connection if they said something interesting, or this is also another opportunity to create another question that you didn't have the opportunity to ask last time. But also, don't make it too long. Don't make it 3 paragraphs,
Oh, yeah.
just a few sentences. And, the classic, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, right? Now,
Yeah.
this is also another thing. When you haven't heard back in 1 or 2 weeks, what do you do? Now, what I like to do is I have used email tracking for a long time, and I don't think a lot of people are using it and taking advantage of it. But I'll send someone an email, let's say the interviewer, and I'll see, did they open it? Did they open it 3 times? So they are reading my email. Maybe they are interested.
Yeah.
Maybe I should be expecting a response soon, because you can see the time, the day they open these things. So it is another tool to add to your arsenal.
Oh my goodness.
Email.
Look, you're so resourceful. Oh my God. And we only talk like not half, probably like 10% from what other topics we could approach. And if you don't have the email address from the interviewer, that is another way to connect with the other person, and you can connect with the receptionist or the admin person. Be very nice with that person, because that person will talk with the interviewer because they work together, and the interviewer can ask the admin or the receptionist, so how did you interact with this candidate? And can make a difference.
Absolutely.
It can be, oh, he or she was so nice, like so easy to talk, so polite, or the opposite, oh my goodness, it was like so rude. It can make a difference, actually.
Yeah, every little thing.
And that person is
Right, the
not
butterfly
interviewing,
effect
is
of
not,
the
is not in the room, is
interview
not in,
process.
is, yeah, not in the room, and still can make a difference in their decision. Yeah. Oh my God, Raymond, it's been an absolute pleasure. We dive into your experience. I believe our listeners have found immense value in today's conversation. And I mean, I can tell because you have so many views on your TikTok videos, because they're like so on point. I really like their on point. A huge thank you for taking the time to be with us and sharing your expertise.
Felicia, thank you so much
Yeah.
for having me here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope. Well, I feel like we're going to do this again.
I hope so.
I think we have enough to talk about
Oh, yeah.
that it could keep going forever. But
I know.
it's been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.